coffee cups and cigarettes laying around the room. I don't mind a little mess, just wanna stay with you, and we'll do anything that we want to do.
So, I've been riding this. Well, I've wonder how many Ks have I done now? I've done 1,863 kilometers on this bike, and I've got to say, I'm loving it. This has been an absolute revelation to me, coming from the previous model, the 411, which had a lot of character, was as reliable as the day is long, and but it was gutless. I've got to say that. So once you got up to highway speeds, you very quickly ran out of puff. If you had to, sort of on a road like this, overtake a long vehicle of some sort, you had to really plan your overtaking maneuver to make sure you didn't get halfway past it and then suddenly encounter an oncoming vehicle. But aside from that, it's a great bike. But this one just raises the bar, and in my opinion, it's it's a huge improvement over what was already a very successful motorcycle. And this 450 motor is an absolute revelation. It's for a mid-size adventure bike. Let's call this a mid-size. It's probably a small size. It is so eager. Like I'm sitting now, just around. I'm only doing 90 kilometers an hour, but the minute I turn the throttle, it starts pulling away, and it's got quite a bit of go in it. The other day, coming through the heat of New South Wales, I sat for most of the afternoon on the clock. I sat at 130 kilometers an hour. That wasn't flat out. It was handling it okay. So it's got something in it that the other one lacked, and that makes it so much more usable. It's very comfortable. I've sat on it for hours now at a stretch, and I've heard some comments about the seat not being that comfortable. Well, I haven't found that at all. Now, granted, I do ride in sort of cycling type shorts with gel pads in the butt area, so that does help, no doubt about it. But all the same, it sits, it's quite comfortable, and I don't get the feeling that I need to get off the bike, after some period of time. So comfortable. The riding position for me is great. I'm 182 centimeters, just under 6 foot on the old scale, and this riding position is just perfect for me. One might argue that the foot pegs are slightly to the rear, but that's really nitpicking. And I've done some gravel. I haven't done any hard off-road riding at all, so I can't comment on that. But I've done lots of gravel and unsealed surfaces, and it handles them pretty well. I have got Midas 7, or I don't know what they are. I can't think of it right now. So I put some 50-50 tires on it, which make a difference on the dirt. Some of the dirt I rode was really loose, marbly gibber and that's always tricky on any bike. And I'm not sure that the Mitas front tire is the perfect tire for this. Um, I should perhaps have you know researched that a bit better, but the rear is perfect, and as I say, the jury's out on the front, but it does its job. I'm not going to criticize it too much. The suspension is very nice. I mean, I ride along these roads and it just sucks up the bumps and so it gives a very comfortable ride. It's not jarring at all. It corners very nicely, so you can take it into some corners, and it corners very confidently. Um, and with that little bit more power, you can actually have some fun in the twisties on it. Now, one of the criticisms I have with this bike is this the screens. The stock screen it comes out with is only about this high, which is ridiculous for an adventure bike, adventure/touring bike. You really need more wind protection than that. So when I ordered the bike, I ordered it with this, I don't know what they called it, a touring screen or whatever, which is taller, by, I don't know, 5 or 6 centimeters. And it too just doesn't do the job, um, which surprises me because Royal Enfield did such a good job, I think, on researching what this bike should do and what its purpose is, and they missed out on this. Now, whether that's just to sell aftermarket parts, but as you can see, this touring screen still doesn't cut it. So I've had to put this extension on that I had on my 411, this deflector, and it's kind of addressed some of it, but not all of it. You'd want the screen, at least I'm going to say 2 or 3 centimeters wider on either side, and maybe 2 centimeters taller. That would probably do it. Now, I know I've seen, I think Givy or Jivy or however you say it, have a wider screen, larger touring screen for this model, and I'm going to get that. So my advice is don't upgrade to the Royal Enfield touring screen. It still doesn't do the job, and get something that's really going to be effective. I think the GV one will be, so I'm going to go for that. So that's my only criticism about this bike. It's just fantastic. So we'll leave it at that for the time being. I'll give you a little walk around. You've probably seen more walk arounds than you can poke a stick at. So we'll see if that comes to fruition or not. But aside from that, it's doing a great job. I'm just loving it on this ride. I've still got about another, 2,000 kilometers to go, and looking forward to every one of those. So, I'll catch you all later. So 2 other criticisms that have come to mind are, one, and look, this is something that is not specific to Royal Enfield. I've had it on Ducati, I've had it to some extent on BMWs that I've owned, and that is the fuel gauge on motorcycles, and the struggle they have with giving you at any point in time an accurate reading of what the fuel level in the tank is. So you have, with onboard computers these days, you have this. Um, Firstly, you have an analog feed of whatever your fuel level is, which gives you on some sort of scale. Here it's a little inner dial. It's showing full right now, and then you've got sort of um, the fuel range left on the bike, that left in the tank. Now, on my 411 and on this, it's the same problem. You fill the tank up and you ride for 150 kilometers and the fuel gauge hardly moves. And then the next thing, you look down and suddenly you're sitting at a quarter of a tank. And you think, what the hell's happened? How did that happen so quickly? Well, how did the fuel level dropping initially happen so slowly, and then this? So, and I think Royal Enfield really have not cracked that nut at all, and some other motorcycle brands as well. So you cannot rely on what your eyes are telling you with regard to fuel. And the only thing that is reliable is the kilometers you're doing on the tank, and what you can mentally calculate might be your remaining range. Because even the fuel range that shows on the onboard computer isn't accurate. And I know that because a few days ago I ran this thing and I thought I might run out of fuel because it was telling me I think I had about 100 kilometers to go, and my fuel range was showing I had 80 kilometers left. And so I was short by about 20 kilometers. Anyway, I kind of banked on my mental calculations that I should have more fuel than this bike was telling me. And thankfully that was true. So when I eventually got to, look, it showed me about 18 kilometers out of wherever I was headed, Swan Hill, that I had 0 kilometers left in the tank. So I did those 18 kilometers into Swan Hill and filled up and put in 15.6 liters. So I had 1.4 liters left in the tank, which would give me another at least 30, let's call it 40 kilometers. So the onboard computer was out by over 50 kilometers of range, which is significant. You want to have confidence in what this machine's telling you, and it really doesn't. I think I might be speeding right now. So that's the one other issue that I have. And the third issue, so the first was the size of the screen, the second is the fuel gauge, and the third is the side stand. Now, the side stand is a known issue. It's known by Royal Enfield to be an issue. It's just not long enough. And, well, I'll talk about two things. It's not long enough. So the bike, when you put it on the side stand, especially when you've got it loaded up like I have, and it just leans over too far. And if you've got it loaded up like I have and it becomes a little bit top heavy, you better be careful where you put the side stand, or if it's on any downslope, the bike's going over. So you've got to choose your spot that this bike doesn't lean over too far. The other issue, which also just amazes me about adventure motorcycles and the manufacturers.
In 400 meters, turn left onto Johnston Street, Midland Highway.
Why can't they just put on a decent foot pad onto the side stand that doesn't sink into the ground? It's an adventure bike. It's going to go on soft surface.
Take the next left onto Johnston Street, Midland Highway.
And this thing's going to keep talking to me while I'm trying to make this point. So
continue on A300 for 1 kilometer.
So now there's all these aftermarket side stand extender pads and all this kind of stuff that you've got to now buy and fit to the bike. What manufacturer doesn't know that these things are on the market because the side stands are not up to the job, especially on soft surfaces? It blows my mind. Now on this bike, it is particularly small. I'll take a shot of it and just show it to you, but it is stupid small for an adventure bike. So not only is the side stand too short, and this bike leans over with all its weight onto this tiny little...
In 400 meters, turn right onto Forest Street, Pyrenees Highway.
Onto this tiny little pad that's going to sink into the ground, for God's sake. Come on, guys, get your act together, really.
Well, I don't know how obvious this is, but this is just to show you the foot pad or the footprint on the side stand and just how small it is for a bike that's designed to be an adventure bike and to be put on the side stand in soft surfaces. You can see here just how far the bike leans over to the left on the side stand, and that makes it really challenging on soft surfaces because obviously now I've got the panniers on, I've got a bag on the back. It's a little top heavy, and so the pressure on that side stand is just unbelievable. So that's really an issue that Royal Enfield need to get on top of, as well as I've already said, the screen and the fuel gauge.
Coffee cups and cigarettes laying around the room. I don't mind a little mess, just wanna stay with you, and we'll do